Let's get started. Welcome back, actually, to the You Purpose Me Institute. I'm Kadesha Carroll, your host, your teacher for this evening. If you are watching the replay, I hope that something that we will say and discuss will bless you, encourage you, and help you to do business on purpose. We are, what's today? The 24th. So just right under 30 days before the conference begins. So life is a bit hectic, but not too much. But either way, my focus is there, making sure that I'm preparing mentally, spiritually, and emotionally, financially, and every other area that I could be preparing. And so I invite you to pray for me and pray for the guests that will be traveling. Almost all of us will be traveling from outside of the Virginia area. And what I've learned is whenever you do something grand, anytime you do anything actually for the Lord, whether it's big or small, the enemy always wants to come in some form or fashion. So I really do invite you to pray for me. Pray for the volunteer staff, and just pray for everybody who is traveling. It's like a really big deal that everyone's coming from like 4 hours and beyond. So with that said, we will not have a long session tonight, but I do want you to keep me lifted in prayer, keep me encouraged, and definitely keep me in your thoughts. But tonight is, I think it's a pretty cool night. I'll talk about what we're going to talk about in a minute, but I'm looking forward to tonight because I do believe that God values partnerships. He values connections. He values collaborations, right? And so I want to talk a bit about that tonight. It was actually scheduled to be talked about next month, but next month we will not have a You Purpose Me Business Institute because that's actually the day before the conference begins, and so I probably will be traveling. So I really wanted to talk about it this month. But again, welcome back. If this is your first time joining in, again, hopefully something that is said will bless you and your business. This is a pretty open forum, so definitely feel free to have some interactive Q&A. Tobias, it may just be you and I tonight, so you know how you and I flow, so we can just interact and have conversation. So let's see. We know all of that. September 7th, I cannot believe, first and foremost, I can't believe that September is literally, 7 days away, 7 or 8 days away. I believe it's next Friday, so 7 days from tomorrow. And like, I like summer. So I'm like dreading the fact that I'll have to find coats, and I have to like make sure once we get to winter that I brush off my car. That's just a hassle. Anyway, September is around the corner. September 7th is our You Purpose Me Faith part, our program. September 21st, again, we will not have a You Purpose Me business session. I will be traveling. And then the conference is here, 22nd through the 24th. Wow. And of course, I have some last minute folks registering. But tonight, like I mentioned, we're going to talk about working with the right team. I use the word working instead of hiring because sometimes when you work with people, it's not necessarily, you're not paying them, they may not be paying you, but you guys are still working together. It can be a partnership, it can be a collaboration, it can be barter system. But whatever the relationship is, it needs to be, the key word I should have underlined, that is the right team. And so even if they're not paid, they're still a part of your team. And so, yes, I'm excited about talking about that tonight. I believe that your next level, I believe your destiny is tied to other people. I just do. And I actually talk about it in the book. Even though the book was for women, the same still applies for men. I believe God created us intentionally, first and foremost, to need him. But then I believe he wants us to trust him enough so we can trust other people. And so if we put down our guards, then we can see that God will actually strategically divinely place people in our lives that can help us spiritually, with business, with our money, etc., relationships, etc. The list goes on. But for this evening, we'll talk specifically about business and having the right team. Having the right team. That's so important. So important. One of the things that I realize in business is that customers do business with a few types of people. So first of all, they do business with people they know, right? It's easy. So if you know someone in business and you need their product or service, you will contact them because you know them. Family businesses, if you have people in your family who run a business, I have cousins who have hair salons. I have a cousin who runs a DJ business. It's easy for me to contact them at any time and say, hey, I need product or service. Also, people do business with people that they like. It's important to be likable. So if you're not really a people person, you may not necessarily want to be in business and or ministry. Ministry is a huge thing. People, you see this all the time. People go to church because of the pastor. Now, we know that should not be the case by any means, right? They should be spiritually fed. They should be there actually wanting to impart. But people do ministry with people that they like. The third thing that I think is very important is people do business or do ministry with people that they find value in. So if someone values your gift, if they see that you are worth investing in, they will continue to do business and continue to do life with you. And so the first two are easy, right? Because if you know someone, if you like someone, it's easy to continue to get their business. However, it's sometimes a little bit harder to display your value to people who don't know you, right? It takes a little bit more time. There is a statistic, I don't remember it verbatim, but basically it takes about 7 to 10 more touches to acquire a new customer, opposed to just, kind of doing business with repeat customers. And so that 7 to 10 touch, and it may be 7 to 14 now, but that touch is people trying to get comfortable with you. So that touch may be a social media post. That touch may be an email. That touch may be a letter. That touch may be a call. That touch may be a flyer in the mail. However you are doing your marketing and your advertising, they need to see it multiple times. Whereas people who already know you or like you don't need to see it as much. And so it really is important to make sure that we are doing good business and good ministry with people who know and like us, right? Because they will be our easy customers, if you will. And in business, you want as many easy customers as possible. And so those people who coming in at that third tier, the people who find value in you, may take a little bit more time. But once you convince them, you want to move them up to know and like. You want them to know you, you want them to refer you, and you want them to like you. I was watching a show, and the guy was saying how he was offended because he wasn't at I think he wasn't invited to dinner or something for someone that he worked with. And so he really wanted to get to know him in a more personal way. And so to that point, I think it is important to understand what your customers are looking for. Some customers strictly just want to do business. So other customers really do want to get to know you on an intimate level. And so again, it's about putting down that guard, being open, and being able to give what they're looking for, but making sure that it is comfortable for you as well to a certain extent. Every customer that every client, every person that you deal with and do business with or ministry doesn't necessarily have to come over to your house or, have dinner with a family. But I believe there is a level of transparency that people like, particularly when doing business and especially when doing ministry. So just kind of keep that in mind. But customers love doing business with people that they first know, they second like, and three, someone that they find value, someone who they know is an expert in their field. And so again, if someone's coming in a complete stranger, you've never done anything with them, they are going to kind of start off at this bottom level. They're looking for the value. But if you do the right things and have the right systems in place, you can move them up so they can become a part of the know, like, family friend type arena. One of the things that I really love about our former president, I almost call him president. I wish he was still in office, but he's not. But one of the things that I really loved about our former president is that I believe he was smart enough to strategically place people around him. And so if there was something that former President Obama did not know, he would place people around him that did. And so that's something that we can learn from him and from some of the other leaders in business and in ministry, is that if you're not good at something, it's okay. You don't have to know everything, but you can have someone who is good in that area and place them right in your inner circle. So you can, one, pull on them as you need to. So it may be a mentor, it may be a coach relationship. It may just be someone who you can bounce ideas off of, like accountability partner. And so it's okay not knowing everything. Even I think just the other day, probably yesterday, if either yesterday or the day before, I was really just praying, to God about some of my weaknesses. But then I'm like, you know what? I can boast in those. Like the scripture tells us to boast in our weaknesses, because in our weaknesses, he is made strong. And so we're not even supposed to know everything, because if we do, one, why would we need to rely on God? And then second, why would he need us to rely on other people if we ourselves know everything? So it's okay not to be an expert in everything. It's okay not to be strong in everything. It's okay not to know how to do something, but it's not okay to not have the right people around you. So if there is a gap, if you will, area of opportunity, then you need to have those people around you that can fill those gaps, so you don't miss a beat. Let me see if there's anything I want to say on former President Obama. Yeah. Mm. And so, as I think we did it, I don't know if we did it when we did the four P's or not, but I feel like we did it before drafting up our dream team. And so, but before you drafted the dream team, it's almost like you identifying those areas that you yourself are weak. And so being very honest and vulnerable, and really just being transparent with yourself and God on these areas that, you know what, I'm not good at. And so that way you can start to, when you start to look, when you start to expand your team first and foremost, then you can start to look for those areas. And so before I head to the next slide, I want to kind of touch on this point. Expansion always starts up here. So you could, if you think that you're so far from having a team, whatever that team may look like, right? Because remember I said it doesn't have to be a paid team. It doesn't have to be paid staff. But if you think you're so far up here, then you are. And so anytime God's going to expand your business or ministry, it always starts up here first. Like you have to believe it first. And so one of the homework that I'm going to give you is really going to require belief. Because if you feel like, okay, my team is not going to really be expanded to 30, 40 years from now, then you won't really be able to do the assignment. But also knowing what type of business and ministry you're in, that you may not need a team of 20, right? So it's understanding your dynamics. One of my speaker coaches, his most immediate team is just him and his assistant. And they both work, if I'm not mistaken, they both work from home. And so for him and his speaker business, that works. And so again, if we compare it to, I believe Marshawn has definitely a little bit more than 2 people working for her. Maybe, I don't know if she's at 5 or so, but every business is different. And so it's about knowing where you are and where you want to grow and how you want to grow, really. But I highlighted some key people, key personas, if you will, that you need to have on your team. And I think it would be pretty cool for us to walk through that. So the first one Actually, I can't wait till I have a closet like that organized with that many colors, with that many shoes. And hey, so maybe that's a part of my dream board that I need to add. Didn't even realize it till now. But the first person that you need is the organizer. It's important to have somebody that can keep you organized. And I'm definitely ministering to myself on this one. But organization in various levels. So documents are so important. Documents meaning your receipts, meaning your mileage tracking. If you are a nonprofit, making sure that all the minutes are taken at your board meetings. There's so many levels of documentation when it comes to business, and particularly when you have a 501c3 nonprofit status. So having someone who is organized in that regards. And what I find is that it's easier to be the eyes and ears for someone else's business than it is for yourself. Because I've been stepping in doing a contract position for another company, and it's like so easy for me to see how they need to be organized and how they need to step up and how I can think of different systems for them. And so sometimes it's just worth having someone else look at your business from the outside standpoint. Someone who's not married to it, someone who's not close to it, who's not in it every day, and have a fresh perspective. And so often as entrepreneurs, we are so married to our business. That's our baby. It's our baby, and we don't want to take advice, or we're too shy or too intimidated to have someone else look at our business, whether it be our financial statements or anything. So I would encourage you to, even if you don't have someone who's working with you regularly, to do have someone do maybe like a snapshot of where you are today. They have a lot of business services. We have here in Delaware, we have our Chamber of Commerce's. We have SCORE is actually nationwide. You can sit down with someone at SCORE, and these people are retired business people. And so they'll sit down with you. They'll look over your business plan with you for free. There's a bunch of resources that your state or city may have that can help you have someone just kind of come in and look at it and give you expertise on how you can do things better. And documentation is just one of those things. I mean, if I can be truly honest, one of the things I'm dreading to do now is our taxes, my business taxes, because I didn't do the proper documentation throughout the year. And so every year that's been a goal for me to do the proper documentation. So you need someone who's organized, right? I'm a big picture person, but not big picture when it comes to the little things that maybe the IRS may need. So your organizer can be, they may be and they may not be. It depends. They may be part of your visionary team as well. Some organizers can see big picture, which is why they can organize on a day-to-day level. And then others are just too caught up in the details, so they really can't see the future. So it really depends what type of personality they have, but they may play that visionary role. Again, they will definitely help you put systems in place. One thing that I do love about my mother-in-law, who owns her own law firm, is that she makes time, even if it's for a night. I think maybe a month ago, she went to a conference for one night. And she wanted to hear what the experts were saying. And what she does is she goes and learns about these systems that these other attorneys are doing all over the world. And then she comes back and implements them. And she typically implements them right away. Now, some of them won't work for her because some of these firms are huge, and hers is more of a small boutique firm with six employees or less. But she goes to these conferences, she writes down their systems, the things that are working, the technology that's working, and then she comes back and implements them right away. So the organizer will help you with systems, getting systems in place on how you can maintain some of these documents, maintain customer interaction, just help you look like this beautiful closet here. Some people actually, I'm trying to see if they did that here. I don't think, some people actually organize their closet based off of colors. I don't know if I would ever be that person right now. I do like shirts, and this is totally off topic, but I do like shirts, blouses, skirts, pants type thing. But that's like, I'm like pretty impressed. I can't wait to like grab this thing and add it to my vision board. But anyway, teammate number one is the organizer. And so again, if this is not your strong suit, then think about in your head who is close that can support you in this manner. And in the beginning, it can start off with, again, someone you know or like. So it could be family, it could be a close friend. And it may not be them working with you day to day, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, but it may say, you know what, can you sit down with me every Sunday, every 2 Sundays, and let's go over some of these things so I can make sure I'm staying organized. Yeah. And I can't remember, Tobias, if you are going with the 501c3 status with your business, that's going to definitely take an extra layer of organization for sure. Are you already 501c3?
No, not yet. Yeah.
Okay. And the key thing, the biggest thing, honestly, I think for us is really the receipts, because that is how we, that's how we get money back at the end of the year instead of guessing. Like, why do we have to do a guessing game? If you've invested in your business, which you have, then keep those receipts. But there's a better way of doing it. Now, everyone has their own little method. Some people use the plastic bag method, the baggie method. Some people document it in like their phone, in their notes. Me, I am a combination of bag method and Excel. But I need to grow in this area. Absolutely. And so I don't have the perfect answer for this, but I do know that you need an organizer to help you. For sure. So that's teammate number one. Teammate number two is your brander. It's important because we won't always have our best days. We won't always see ourselves as God sees us. And so it's important to have someone who sees you sometimes better than you see yourself. So they can pull things out of you. They can dig deep to say, you know what is it that Kadesha really stands for? What is the image that you want to portray to the world? What is that? What is the character? What's the personality of your brand, of your business, right? So they'll look at Tobias and say, you know what, Tobias, this is who you say you are, but this is what I hear when I hear you talk about your business. I always reference him, Marcus Lemones, who has the show called The Prophet and has a show called The Partner. And so on his show, The Prophet, he invests in small businesses all around the world, invests his own money because they're failing businesses. And so one of the business, let's see if I can remember it. I don't remember the name, but it was a phenomenal business. Basically, they sold watches, but each watch was a different color, and each watch represented a nonprofit. So they would give money back to the nonprofit. And so the company initially, this was their thing. Like, it was like 5 watches, 5 colors, and I may be off with the numbers, but it was like a certain amount of numbers, or a certain amount of watches, a certain amount of colors, and each color and each watch represented a nonprofit organization. As they started to grow, they got away from that. They got away from the give back. They didn't talk about it as much. And so they would lose sales. And so that's what the brander helps you do. They help you kind of go back to who you are, like go back to your core. Okay, this is who you are as a person, and this is who you want, or what you want your company or your ministry to represent. And so someone who can just kind of see through to your soul almost. And so this person can help you with your marketing and highlight those things that are really the most important for people to see. Because sometimes, again, being married to our business and our ministry, we show people what we like. And that may not be what people want to see. And so they have a keen eye of representing you, but also having that keen eye of what your customer or your client wants to actually see. Clearly, I haven't had enough water today. But yeah, the brander is for highlighting your image, bringing your character to life, your personality. I like to call it your personality, your business personality, and then help you with that marketing piece as well. And one of the things that I love, and I'm sure you love about her too, is Marshawn Evans Daniels branding. I love her branding, and I like to see how it evolved. And so I'll look at like her. I think I had looked at like her Instagram page to see where her post started, and then to see how the colors and it started to change, and it started to look more mature over time. And so that's actually a pretty cool thing, actually, to reflect back on your own business and your ministry and to see how it has changed over time and what content you're releasing, what graphics you're using, and yeah, to see the evolution of it. I remember with my Charisma Events and Consulting, we started off, it was very hard hitting colors, like a bold black, a bold pink, and white. And the business card itself was, I mean, it was okay, but it was kind of hideous now looking back at it. But now looking at a new card, I don't know if I have any on me. I don't have any of those cards, but just to see the evolution, the colors were softer. We were including images now on our business cards. The pink got a little lighter, but not too light. So not light like a baby shower pink, but it was somewhere in between. And so it was a softer, more mature look, more mature color. But we were also displaying what we actually do on the business card. So just in case someone didn't get it, they could, they would catch it with an image. And so that's another thing about branding as well, is using the right imagery. Pictures really do say 1,000 words. And so the images that you use of yourself, your professional headshots, the images that you use on your website, it really says a lot about you. And it really says a lot about your business. So along with this, I guess I should have put in there, along with the brander, is really having a good photographer and making sure you capture those images that really help tell a story. Yeah. To that point, do you have any images on your website of you? Oh, you're, let me unmute you. Go ahead.
No, not right now. It's actually, I'm actually image free right now.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. So we'll have to work on that. People love doing business with people who have a face. So yes, I'm going to say that and leave it there. But I definitely think having some professional shots would, one, be nice, and help you.
Oh no, I totally agree.
And a lot of people don't like being in front of cameras at all. But having a good photographer helps with make that comfortable. And it helps with, they'll catch the right shot. But it definitely requires a level of confidence to spend an hour with a potential stranger if you don't know the photographer. But yes, I think that is definitely a good homework assignment for you, Tobias. To get ready for your photo shoot. And maybe bring some models in.
Hey.
So teammate number 1 was the organizer. Teammate number 2 is the brander, helping you with your image, character marketing. I actually I feel like all of a sudden I'm meeting all these fashion designers. And it's funny because that's actually one of my requests. So the Lord is a personal stylist and a driver. Eventually I would like to have a driver outside of my husband. I mean, he likes driving, so I guess that works for now. But yeah, I've been meeting a lot of personal stylists. And so that may help, with branding. Is you having someone that can say, you know what, I wouldn't wear X, Y, and Z together, but maybe put A, B, and C together. And that would help with you being more confident at a photo shoot as well. Having a stylist to say, having someone to dress you. It's actually a really cool experience. A really cool experience, and I think we all should definitely go through it. But more importantly, I think it would help tell a good story for your business. All right, teammate number 3. The designer. One thing that has been a super blessing to me lately with my recent new partnership with the co-authors is that one of them is pretty good in Photoshop. And I had no idea until she put together like some impromptu flyer for us. And so that just took so much pressure off of us that we didn't have to find someone to do something. One, we didn't have to pay them a lot of money, but 2, we didn't have to wait. So one of the things with designers, this is actually a pretty cool person to have on your team, and I believe it's fairly easy. So again, team is just someone that you can refer to, use fairly quickly. Again, doesn't have to be a paid person on your staff. And so there are a lot of students who could fill this void. Internships.com, I use them quite often. I actually need to use them again very soon to find someone to do an internship with me. And so you can find designers on internships.com. You can use college students, high school students. But also now with technology and all these different platforms that we have, Fiverr, I believe it's Fiverr, or is it Fi? Let me Google it. But that's actually another cool resource that you can use in terms of designers. And when I say they create, now I personally haven't used them, but I have friends who have and use them consistently all the time. Okay, Fiverr.com, Fiverr.com. But you can get flyers done for $5. I mean, they just have different resources available. And another resource that I did use years ago was Cool Design Maker. They do everything. I mean, from websites to business cards to flyers to, I mean, at this point, they're so much more advanced than when I was using them. I use them but we use them for our very first wedding and event planning website. And I don't think we paid over $200, if I'm not mistaken. Now, again, it was a starter site. So you have to determine where you want to start. You don't have to stay there. You just start there to get yourself going. But CoolDesignMaker.com, I believe, is the website. And oh my goodness, just thinking about it, like, makes me smile because they do so much. And they're a lot more affordable than some like Designer. But the designer that I use now, I always butcher his business, is phenomenal. And so I do believe that over time you do have to grow and you do have to invest a bit more, depending, if you want to attract certain clients in certain business, you have to invest more. So I am now currently working with, oh gosh, why do I always butcher Jason's company? Let's see. I know it's, you know what? I'm going to Google it because I don't want to butcher it. But actually, speaking of this, his name is actually one of the things that really resonated very strongly in my spirit. And it sucks that I can't even remember it. And I've been referring him a lot of business, actually. Let's see. Oh, I don't think it's going to come in here. It's going to come in this one. We're going to get it. But it's to the effect of, we build dreams. Okay, we are dreambuilders.com. Love it, love it, love it. That was, you know what? I sat on him for a while, actually. I thought about it. He had been in my spirit for a while. Again, that name, I'm huge on name. I'm huge on branding, and I believe he has a phenomenal brand. And I just sat there for a while because I didn't want to make the leap in terms of investment. And so I have been working with a designer for some years, probably, maybe 2 years. And he would always give me what I need in terms of financial costs, but was lacking in some other areas. And I had been wanting to make that shift, but again, I wasn't ready to invest. And so anyway, I've invested, I moved on, I'm working with Jason and his team, and I love it. I mean, they're quick, they're fast, they're efficient. They do cost a little bit more than my previous designers, but I trust them with the work that they do. I trust him. He'll be working on my new website very soon. So wearedreambuilders.com is definitely somebody I would recommend for sure. And so kind of going back to this teammate, whoever that person is, that designer, that's the person who will have that keen eye to help you develop those marketing materials, that will draw on the appropriate photography, pull those into your flyers or your website, what you should do on social media and things of that nature. Because fortunately and unfortunately, we do live in a very visual world, and it's kind of, it's hard. I have to be honest, it is hard to maintain such a professional etiquette, if you will, and not even professional. I think actually that's the easy part. It's the hard part is probably just being consistent in all these spaces, in the social media space, in the email space, which I don't have listed here, but making sure that these things are consistent and they all coincide. But that again is what your designer can help you do. So this was, I believe, teammate number 3. Let's see. So teammate number 1 was the organizer. Teammate number 2 was the brander. Teammate number 3 is the designer. And they would definitely work closely together. Yes. Teammate number 4. I feel like everyone, side note, at least I feel like everyone in their life has had to wear this headset at one point in time, whether it was some type of college job or something. But you need these type of people, and this person is you need a people pleaser. As a visionary, I am already, boom, 2020, 2025. And so sometimes it's hard to maintain customer relationships because I'm already 5 years ahead. And so you really do need someone who is very keen on customer service, on making sure that what you deliver is what you said you were going to deliver, making sure that you're going above and beyond, making sure you're following up with people, making sure that you care about the customer and not necessarily only about the business relationship. I do believe in good business, but definitely in ministry, there should be a balance. It should not always be about the transaction, so to speak, but there should be a level of customer service to it. There should be a level of you listening to what they're saying, to you knowing a bit about something about, depending on the business that you're in, something about their personal space, right? I mean, if it's, let's say you're in the McDonald's drive-thru, it's hard to establish a really long lasting relationship with someone coming through drive-thru. But if you're selling someone windshields, or like someone, I ran into somebody today who sells printers and copiers to businesses, you want to establish relationships. And so that's what the people pleaser does. The people pleaser helps you to establish those types of relationships, right? And maintains those relationships. Can be that follow-up person that if you ever want to get to the point where you're sending out cards 4 times a year, if you're sending out things during the holiday season, this person helps you with that. Now, one thing I do want to point out is that one person can carry multiple hats. So if someone is very strong in these areas, if let's call it your organizer, they may be your people pleaser as well. Going back to my coach, my speaking coach, I was listening to one of his videos the other day, and basically after he does a speech, he sends out, well, not he, but his assistant sends out a thank you email. They'll send a thank you card in the mail, and then they will send out like cookies or some type of gift. And I'm like, man, that's cool. And so that's a part of people pleasing, making sure that they are satisfied, making sure that they even complete a survey on how his speaking engagement went. What did they like? Is there anything that he needs to improve upon? So that level of follow-up. So it's important to have that type of person, particularly when we're dealing with ministry, because a lot of people may have different gifts, but they may not always have that spirit of that gift of hospitality or that gift of admin. So you need someone close, someone very close to you that can definitely pay attention to the people. And one thing that I believe on a church level, one thing that I think people fault the pastor is that he's not as involved with people. And so my church that I'm at has different levels of pastors. So there's a pastor that always pretty much preaches, but then there's a pastor that does pastoral care. And so that's the person who goes and prays with the people in the hospital. That's the person who is out in the streets praying with people. And so they realized early on that was his gift. Like, it's Pastor Randy's gift to get out there and pray with people and to touch and lay hands on them. And so not that the other pastor didn't enjoy doing that. It's just, it's not one of his gifts. So it's not high on his radar, but his thing is teaching and bringing the word of God. And so I think that was a good example of showing where the two can work together. But it's just understanding, again, going back to the gifts, understanding what your gifts are, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and allowing someone to fill in that gap. Yeah. So that was what? Teammate number 4, I think. Moving track. So you definitely need the finance person, the financier, someone who can help you look at the bottom line, right? And that is definitely somebody who's not heart driven, who's not mission driven, but is looking at the bottom line. Does it make dollars? Does it make sense? Is it going to be profitable with you and for you? And in the ministry world and the church world, it's important to still have this person on board, because it's important that you take care of the flock, but that the flock take care of you also. And so Jesus doesn't want us to be eating out of house and a home, right? So if you're going to operate a church, let's just go back to the pastor example. If you're operating a church, the church has expenses. There's lights, there's rent, there's utilities, there's trash pickup. There's real live expenses that come with doing business and ministry, particularly. And so it's important to make sure you have someone who is definitely have a heart for Jesus, but definitely have a heart for that wallet and that pocketbook as well. That person will definitely look out for low cost opportunities as it relates to marketing, fundraising, and other ways that will keep the money in your pocket, well, in the bank. So yeah, you need someone to help you with the money part of things, the accounting part of things as well, knowing what is due to the IRS, what's not, knowing what you can write off, what you can't. And again, these are services that you can, yeah, you may have to pay for them, but there may be some people who can volunteer their time as well. Going back to that SCORE example, SCORE is another phenomenal resource. And other resources, your chambers of commerces, libraries, actually libraries have a lot of free workshops on things like this. At least I know we do here in Delaware, and I know if we do in Delaware, I know we do there. I know they do nationwide. So you need someone counting the books, counting the costs, right? The word talks about counting the costs. So you need, maybe not this guy here, but you definitely need somebody to count the books. It's so important, particularly when you have a big heart. It's like you'll forget about the money side of it. And I believe good wisdom finds balance. I am going to take a break for a minute. What's your thoughts, Tobias? What areas do you feel like you're pretty strong in, and what areas do you feel you need to fill the gap, fill the void?
Oh, so yeah, if I could hire a financier who would take care of everything, that would be great. But yeah, I think yeah. I mean, I think down the road, a financier is a big part of it. I think that the the organizer is also probably another weakness. Um, for me, I think the real issue that I'm dealing with now, I don't know if I even mentioned this to you before or even we talked about it, but I encountered somebody who I've actually related with in a whole different area, but they kind of presented themselves to me as as sort of I guess, the brander, to me, and they're pretty good at it. So like in a matter of minutes, they were able to kind of rebrand what I was doing. And like, I could definitely see them being like a teammate or, working, on the, being part of this team. But I guess the issue was that to let that person like totally rebrand everything was to sort of take the brand out of what I was developing it into. But it was less about what I was developing it into, because I actually didn't disagree with anything she said. I sensed that it wasn't developing into what God was developing into. So, it was almost like I had to kind of take some of her advice, but then kind of like disconnect entirely and just kind of like push down the road to what I wanted to develop. And then what she wanted to see became part of what I wanted to be part of the vision. So like what she wants to see is part of it, but it's almost as if for each of these areas, I find myself having to go down some of the road myself just to see where I want it to go or where I think God wants it to go.
Mm-hmm.
And then, being able to commission and then attract the right people. It's kind of funny. I did a post like, I don't know, 2 weeks ago on Facebook and I think Twitter at the same time. And it was weird. I attracted two very, very, very unique people. One was a person who actually, her name was mentioned to me as somebody I might be romantically interested in years ago. I think she has a boyfriend, husband, totally attached, but she was interested in it. And then the other person was a person whom, it's kind of funny. It's like, actually, when we were playing basketball when we were kids, she was like the really quiet person on the side, but also really engaged. And so like that was the person whom you just wished, or I wished back then, like, we could have connected. And that was the thing, like she was really quiet, really, really my type, I guess. And those two people just totally were interested in what I posted out of, I don't know, 700, 800 friends, right? I don't know how many friends we have, but you're like, wow, if I totally be myself, I will attract the right people to my team, so to speak. So I think that's kind of the way I think about it. I mean, I'm like, yeah, I need all these people on a team but I also need to kind of go down some of these roads to kind of attract the right people.
Yeah,
So that's kind of that's kind of where I am right now.
that's key to ensure that the same values, the same morals. Uh, One girl that I still work with, but and we did talk about that, the rebranding bit. We did talk about it. Um, but yeah, young lady that I work with the wedding and event planning, I trust her to run my events, run my weddings when I'm not in the state. Um, but it was weird when I tried to transition to have her support me for Live on Purpose stuff. It was just static and nothing that she was doing or not doing. It's just it's just different. This is just such a spirit led initiative, and she's not there yet. And so, yeah, it is important to make sure you have the right people at the forefront. It's just important for me when I'm doing these types of initiatives that if I'm have anybody work with me, that they have to be believers. Now, where they're at in their walk with the Lord is obviously between him and them, but it's important for me to just cover my things in prayer, cover my things with fasting, and there's just a certain type of spiritual connectivity that I need if when someone's working with me as it relates to Live on Purpose stuff. So I get it. You definitely do want to attract the right individuals, the right person, and I think that just helps with you being in line with what you want to attract, because ultimately we are who we attract to a certain degree. So certain people won't be attracted to you because they'll be intimidated by you. So yeah. What?
No. The other thing that I'm kind of like toying with in my mind is, you talked earlier about being able to boast in your weaknesses, um, and that's really, really, really kind of, really, yeah, really just kind of helping me see something, and it's just developing. I'm just developing it, because I'm actually reading the right book. And
Oh wait, so you just answered my question. I was so concerned because I've been using this new machine at the post office, right? And I'm like, okay, is this thing going into Never Never Land or what?
Mm-hmm.
But okay, so you got
it. So yeah, no, so yeah, no, I've been well, I've read, well, the first chapter I read when I got the book was, believe it or not, was Naomi's chapter on anxiety. And so I read that chapter first, and I read it twice now. That chapter, I read that chapter twice now, and one of the interesting observations I've made myself is that just compared to all the chapters in the book, but also just compared to any chapter that you'd read anywhere. Her experience is laden with the actual use of the Word of God. And I was sitting there thinking, I'm thinking to myself, like, in terms of my own business, using it, I'm like, wow, like, yeah, that's kind of where my weakness drove me, meaning that her strength is actually probably came from her weaknesses. And I guess what I'm saying is suggesting to myself is that, if I actually engage my weaknesses, like, I'm joking, like, yeah, I need to hire a financier. But if I actually engage the financing part, it'll actually drive me to bigger strengths. Meaning, it's not that I'm trying to be the world's greatest financier, but if I actually become become more serious about my finances, or, become more serious about my organization, other better things are going to emerge that relate to my strengths. So that's, so yeah, I better keep reading.
You couldn't have said it even better. Like, I couldn't have said it any better than you. I really do believe, like, with this partnership of myself, Alicia, and Naomi, like, I don't know all that God has in store for us. But I do know that we're so similar, but so unique in our gifts and our strengths. And so, speaking of financier, Alicia is our finance person. I mean, she's been the finance speaker at my conference probably every year. And just the small things that she says, sticks with me. Even when it comes to how we do our collaboration, like, we look at her and like, okay, Alicia, we know you don't play. I mean, I don't play with my coins, but she really doesn't like play with her coins. Like, even to the point where, we wanted to leave money in our PayPal account so we can just hurry up and make purchases for our books. But she's like, no, I want my money growing. I want it. Like, that's just how she's wired. And so, yes, I think about money growing, but I don't think about it like she does. And so that's just one of her gifts. And so I just see our partnership and our collaboration. I just really feel blessed. Like, they think they're the blessed ones because I'm the one who came up with the book, but I'm so blessed by them because they have different gifts that I do. And together it just works. So, yeah, and I can't wait to text Naomi and tell her how blessed you are by that chapter. So I'm going to text her as soon as we get off here, if not simultaneously. Because one thing, in reading her chapter, and I tell her all the time, I think it was that one, is her, I just love her transparency and her vulnerability to really just open up and let you guys in. And so, to me, that's like one of our deepest topics. When we had our book signing on Sunday, just under that umbrella alone, there's so many different layers of depression and anxiety that can come, So, I mean, we definitely have to write more about that. But, yeah, thank you for telling me that. It has blessed you twice over. So I'm going to tell her that because that's what it's about. So, prayerfully, her opening up will help you and other people open up because it's ultimately about how we can help someone else. Like, it doesn't help for us to be whole if we can't help other people be healed and whole as well. So I'm excited.
Yeah, no. I mean, to say more about the book itself, I mean, just that first read, just reading that first chapter, I mean, just the legitimacy that I got out of it, because as a person who went through some of the things that she describes, the first thing I'm looking for is, does she get what I got? Meaning, does she understand what I actually, went through or go through? And there's a passage where she talks about, when you actually begin to love, well, when you're not loving yourself, or when you begin to love yourself, that's when you can actually begin to address your own conditions. And so, like, that moment, like, is like, oh yeah, she gets what I get, or what I got. And so I'm like, oh yeah, so this is for real. And so I can go back to the beginning of the book and start reading. So yeah, so I mean, yeah, there's like this identity that actually draws people into the book. So I'm like, people are drawn in like at different places, and they're just totally, they're just totally there. Speaking of coins, one of the things that I worked on this afternoon, Alicia has, Alicia's chapter on leadership. One of the things I'm trying to do is write a personal statement so I can, attract myself to academic institutions.
Mm-hmm.
I've written one personal statement and I'm like totally scrapping it. But working on it again. I mean, it's funny because that's exactly what I'm asking myself to become, meaning that I want a school to spend money on me, basically. And so, like, Alicia really talks about being able to talk about your strengths and weaknesses. And for me, that's actually kind of hard to do because I'm either at one extreme or the other, right? I'm totally like, oh, I'm totally incapable, or I'm like, what can you tell me that I can't do, right? And so, like, to actually sit down and say, these are my strengths, this is how I do what I do, and these are my weaknesses, is actually a task. And so, but she actually demands that you actually go out and do this if you want to be a leader,
right?
So, there's just, there's many different levels that they all engage. And And, you know, of course, well, actually about the book, like reading, well, when I read your parts,
Yeah, you don't have to do
I mean, well, my first reaction was like, oh, like Kadesha was talking about this just the other day. So I'm like, so yeah, so it actually, so yeah, so you know, most of the parts are actually like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, I do know this, I've heard this before,
that.
but no, I mean, you know, I think for me, like the refreshing part is that, I mean, it really is your faith walk, because like, I mean, for example, like you could have, for example, talked about your purpose and how your purpose connects you to lots of people, but you actually start off saying, you know, my purpose actually connects me to people whom I just began to know, right? And you're like, and then you're sitting there thinking, like, yeah, you know, so it actually gives me faith to connect with people. It's not even about faith for me. It's not even about faith about connecting with people I know. What you're talking about is having the faith to do the work so that you can be connected with people you don't know,
Yeah.
which is like, you know, which is like a whole different way of, you know, thinking. Like I'm not trying to reach out to people. I'm actually just trying to, you know, interact with God and act in faith, and all these other things are just going to happen. And you're like, okay, yeah, that's how, you know, yeah. So,
Right. But that, you know, that's a good point, because I mean, I think it is easy for us to just connect with people that we know in our inner circle. That's the easy part of it. Um, but it is hard and it is scary to go into new territories. And I mean, I had a friend who, um, very much like you, she's very supportive, but in a different way. But she's just always encouraging me. You know, when I send out my Monday motivation, she's very responsive. But anyway, she invited me to a new network group, and I hadn't been networking in months. Like I had just been doing everything from my little lazy boy here, and so I'm like, oh gosh, here we go. Like I hadn't been out there in a while, and it was in a part of town that I had wanted to network before. There was actually another group that was meeting maybe a few blocks up, and I never made it, but it was called like the Millionaire Group. So I kept it on my calendar because I'm like, I need to at least go once so I can just brush elbows with millionaires. And anyway, it was like up the street from that. I think me and Esther was probably it was three African Americans. I probably was near the youngest, maybe there was one other person probably younger than me. But anyway, the whole environment, like you could just feel the whole room just shift. And it was one of those mornings, I probably wasn't having the best morning. But I just felt the light of the Lord, and I knew that they could feel it too. And it was just like a breath of fresh air that and I happened to be running late because but all days my husband ended up taking my car key. And I'm like, but I made it. And I ended up selling a book, and I made some good connections. But I was able, and also met some people that I needed to pray for because they just have some really off beliefs. But the point that I'm making is I went outside of my comfort zone, didn't really feel like it, but it was so rewarding. But I knew that they saw the God in me and not me myself, because I wasn't really having the best day. But they saw God. And so the point I'm making is God needs us to be out because we're the light. So if I'm always on my lazy boy, if I'm always in these four walls, if I'm always to myself, who am I being a light to? And so that's why we have to press our way out into these uncharted territories. Me going to Williamsburg, I'm still like, what on earth? But it's like God's sending us as the light. So you're the light, Tobias. So get out of your comfort zone. And I'm glad that you confirmed that my language is consistent in my book. And that's my thing. Like I don't really want to create anything new. I mean, unless the Holy Spirit gives it to me, but I just want to be consistent because I feel like people need to get it. Like, and I think they get it by hearing it over and over again, that you have purpose, duh. Like, get to operating in it. So thank you for that. Anyway, now that we've plugged wisdom on the wall, I think this was our fifth teammate. Let's see. So then it really comes to how we find these people. And I think I know we can over analyze. And so it's so simple sometimes, but what we really need to do. And the first thing the first thing here is really petition God. What is it that we need and we want? And so what I'm trying to get better at doing is verbalizing, right? Because I can keep a lot of my prayers here. And even though they're unspoken, I know God still hears them. But it's something about me hearing it, because our faith comes by hearing. And so it's important for us to speak what it is that we're praying, right? And so I definitely am a big writer. So, sometimes I journal during my quiet time. But I'm such like me laying and chilling right here. This is how I am in my quiet time. This is just me and the Lord chilling. So sometimes I won't write. I won't say a thing. I just am engulfed in his presence. But I'm trying to be more intentional about speaking it out, because if I hear it, then of course the enemy hears it, but I need to hear it. I need to hear my petition to God, because that's me believing that he's going to answer it. So the first thing that we have to do is really just petition God. Okay, Lord, this is what I need. I need an organizer. I need a financier. I don't need them 3 years from now. I want them now. However you can do it, bring them now. And then once we petition God, again, God uses people. We have to open up our mouths and ask people what it is that we need. So if there is something that you need, then open up your mouth and ask. I mean, just the other day, it had to be the Holy Spirit. It wouldn't have been the enemy. I'm like, okay, Lord, I don't even know how the idea came, but the idea of reaching out to men, because I do believe that men want to support women. And although they may not come to the conference, there's another way that you can support us and show us that you value us. I mean, we are bringing children into this world, first and foremost. That's how we birth, but we're natural helpmates. We're natural nurturers. So how can you support and sow into women? So boom, ask men to help and support the conference by feeding us. You don't want us to be irritable. You want us to be hungry and fed. You don't want us turning into the divas that we do turn into when we are hungry. But I had to ask, and I almost didn't ask, but then someone texted me, actually a guy texted me this morning to confirm it. And so I'm like, all right, cool. And actually, he's probably end up going to come to the conference now, and he needs a roommate, Tobias. But he confirmed it for me. And so I just moved forward with the ask. All people can do is say no or not respond. But you have to ask people for what you want, right? The old saying is a closed mouth doesn't get fed. And so, again, ask around. Hey, do you know anybody who can help me with being organized? Do you know anybody who can help me with my finances? You never know who people have in their back pocket. You will be surprised how many people, what is that, 6 degrees or whatever that little saying is?
Yeah.
Everyone knows somebody. It's just phenomenal. The whole networking world, I can't believe I've been out of the loop for so long, because networking is really where it happens. So we petition God, we petition people, and then we actually not just petition though, we actually have to put faith to our feet. And so start looking for these people. And when I say look, yes, physically look, but remove anything that would be distracting our eyes spiritually as well. Sometimes we don't always see what God is presenting to us because we think it's going to come in some type of box. And if it doesn't come in a box, then we may not know that this is the blessing that God is actually sending us, right? And so start to do the work. And so this morning there was two ideas, because I honestly believe our walk with the Lord, whether it's in business, ministry, life, whatever, relationships, I always equate it to it's like a maze. It just really is. We have options. We can go left, we can go right. It's we're trying to get to the carrot. I mean, God, he can tell us, but he don't have to. I mean, how fun is that if he tells you everything? Tobias, if he tells you everything you need to do, that doesn't require any level of trust. any level of faith, to be honest. So there has to be a certain amount of steps that we take. And then he'll kind of lead us in the direction like, all right, yeah, you're going the right direction. So this morning I had 2 ideas in terms of 2 restaurants that I could reach out, see if they can kind of help with, because I had already started looking at restaurants. I'm like, I'm not feeling these. And so this morning 2 dropped in my spirit. And so I started on one website and I'm like, well, they're not showing me what I need. But that one website reminded me of the second website that I needed to go to. And I had a conversation with him and he's like, yeah, email me. We can support you and help. Yes. Thank you, Jesus. But I had to go to the first website, although it wasn't the website that was the answer. That got my brain thinking, which led me to website number 2. So we have to do the work. We have to not only believe and petition God for it, but we have to actually look for the things that we're looking for. So start looking for the people, start networking, start listening to conversations, start looking online, right? On social media. I was sending out some books at the post office and it turned into this whole like networking event because I got there late. So, and I actually know the lady at the post office. She's like, Kadesha, I'm done. So I had to use a machine for the first time. So then I become the expert on the machine. So the person behind me needed some help on the machine. So we're talking. Then the person behind her needed help. Anyway, she was a fellow author. So we end up talking about that. She saw me signing my books before I'm like sending them off. And anyway, we just all end up talking. The 4 of us, it's like closed. We're just like taking up all this room. And it ended up being a really good connection. This lady, she actually wanted to make it to the book signing, but was unable to. But I could tell that God was doing something more than just me sending off a book that day. Like it was about being in the right place at the right time. And so we have got to get out of these 4 walls and just start meeting people, because you never know who's your answer prayer, who's waiting for you, like to say, hey, I'm here to help you. I want to work on your finances and I'm single. Like you just never know. So we have to be willing to look for these folks. And then lastly, which I can't even see because this thing is in the way. Oh, interview and evaluate. I know that although we are doing it from a stance of belief and faith, you still have to interview and evaluate people, because everybody, again, still will not have the same morals, the same values, or the same intentions. And it may not even be the right season, to be honest. It could be a phenomenal person. They may have the skill set that you're looking for, but they may not be ready to focus on you at this time. This is what I'm really, really helping my mother-in-law with this. When I tell you turnover at her front desk has been crazy. I mean, crazy. Like almost the last 3 people lasted like no more than 2 days. And they may have had some, valid excuses like family having heart attacks and things of that nature. But when that type of stuff happens, like you have to pay attention to it. Like you just have to know that God's trying to say something. So you do need to interview people. Take your time to thoroughly interview them, evaluate them. And when I mean by evaluate, like check them out when they're not checking you out. So look at them when they're not looking at you. See what they're doing on their social media. See what they're doing, when they're out networking. Like spy on them. One company I met at a conference I was speaking at, Beyond School Hours Conference, and they talked about a new way of interviewing that I thought was phenomenal, because people can really rehearse. You can Google the best interview questions in the world, right? And especially if you're a speaker or orator, you're going to know what to say. So they suggested that you do different types of interviews and kind of like observation interviews, if you will. And so they would have, like, say there's an interview on campus. And so your interview was supposed to be in room A on this side, and they would switch it last minute and say, you know what, you're way on the other side of campus, to see how they will respond. They would do things like, say you were interviewing in a restaurant and they would leave money on the floor and, not be present to see how you were to react in those types of environment. They would do things like If it's raining outside, have an old lady not have an umbrella, and see how you respond to her not having an umbrella. Do you help her? Do you just rush past her? But
it's like ABC's What Would You Do? Yeah.
pretty much. And it's like, you know what? That's how you really get to the root of someone, like to the core, to their character, to see what would they do if you're not looking. So yeah, even in a faith environment, which we are in for sure, you still have to interview, you still have to evaluate people, again, because everybody don't have the same level of faith. Their journey's different, and some people are still developing and growing, and it's all good, no judgment, but you just may not want them working closely with you. Yeah. And I think along those lines is about having clear communication on what your vision is. And that's something that God is continually working with me. Because I have everything up here, I think everybody's supposed to know what I have in my head. But it's constant, clear communication, constantly reassessing who was I just talking to or listening to about, I can't remember. I don't know what's wrong with my brain today. But I can't, somebody was saying the person didn't know the vision. And you need to tell them again, like, what the vision is. And so you need to constantly remind people of what the vision is, what your mission are, what your mission is, what your goals are for the organization, and just reassess. This is where we're at now. This is where we're headed. And so, yeah, just constant, clear, concise communication. Huge, huge, huge. And that's definitely one area that I am growing and working on as a leader, because your team is only as good as the person who leads them. You know, they're really a reflection of you. And so if there's something wrong with the team, then there's something wrong with us, the leaders. So communication is key. What are you going to say?
No. Or as Alicia puts it, I mean, people are just simply inspired by what you actually do.
Absolutely. Or the lack thereof, or not do.
Yeah.
And parents try to say, you know, kids do what I say, not what I do. That does not work. They are very, kids see everything. And not to call your teammates kids, but people, we look with our eyes, and we see more than what we think people see. Or yeah, people see more I can't talk tonight, Tobias. People see more than we think they do. Absolutely. Yeah. So petition God, petition people, look for them, and then once you found them, still interview and evaluate. And do 2 interviews. Even if it's for a non-paid position, you can still conduct interviews. Even with like volunteers for the conference, like we're going to have a volunteer call. And most of these people I've worked with before, but they need to understand the importance of that weekend. And so, yeah, we're going to do some calls and some stuff leading up to it. Cool, yeah. Let's see. All right. So, to the biz work. It's just a little bit more detailed than what I believe we did before. And that's rewriting the dream team, but rewriting it with some job responsibilities, but also putting some pictures in there. So if you know folks, even if you know, who cares if you can't afford this person? Who cares if you can't have Marshawn Evans Daniels on your team? Put her on there. Like, she's a great consultant and branding person. And even if you don't know the person, maybe what you think they would like. For instance, if you know you don't want an all-male team, then obviously your org chart wouldn't look like this. But I do believe variety and diversity is important, particularly in the workplace. You want that diverse thought. If you work with all these men, you guys more than likely are all going to think alike. If you sprinkle some women in there, sprinkle some women with different colors, Vietnamese, Caucasian, African American, you'll have a diverse thought. So, yes, mapping out the vision with the org chart and writing out some key, I would say, 3 responsibilities for each person that they would like. That's their thing, that's their baby. And again, if you get a strong person, they can wear more than one hat. So the organizer can be, what did I say the person can be? The organizer may also be your people pleaser. Because that's a customer service role, and the organizer may fall into that role, but they may not. But yes, mapping out your org chart vision. That is funny. Whoever put this person. Oh, I love it. I don't want that person working for me and all those roles. Definitely need some diversity for sure. I think that is it. Yeah. But I firmly believe that I just believe our future is tied to the people that we connect ourselves to. I just believe that. And so connecting yourselves with the right people, but understanding where you want to go as well. Having confidence to communicate that to the right people. And then that will help you attract the right people. Yay. Working with the right team. God is expanding and enlarging our territories. Jabez. He is doing that for you, for me, for those who believe. For those who believe. And I would be remiss if I didn't say, and for those who obey. So we got to believe and we have to obey the instruction. But I do believe there's enlargement taking place. So our org chart can look like this if we desire it to. I don't know if I ever want to lead that big of a team for me personally. I think I'm good around 5 to 7, maybe. But I like small, intimate groups. I believe people grow more. You can have deeper relationships with small groups opposed to having wide, like deepness. At the network group, that's one thing that the guy did say. He said, I'm not big for small talk. So he doesn't go in a room, and we definitely share that same philosophy. He doesn't go to a network group of 30 people and try to meet everybody. I've always had the power of just 3. Let me just try to meet 3 people. And that was his thing too. Because in those 3 encounters, you can actually learn a person. Opposed to trying to meet everybody, you probably get their name, their business, and then you forget about them. But if you focus on 2 or 3, then you can actually spend some time with them and really get to know them and build a relationship with them, opposed to just collecting a biz card. So, me personally, I don't think I want to have an org chart this large, this wide and narrow, or this deep, but 5 to 7 is good for me. What?
No. It's cool. It's cool. Yeah.
This is funny. Can you imagine? Can you imagine having that many people report to you?
I mean, I can. It's easy. And no, seriously. I mean, I don't mean to be flippant, but one of the things that God really is working with me on is this. For me, I was thinking about smaller, like the vision stays the same, but the mission becomes different and deeper. So like in terms of my own, in terms of this, also in terms of my teaching, the law department of my teaching, which has nothing to do with the university. But I was thinking about like smaller missions, and I mean, I think I've really been led to go for deeper missions, and then deeper things will grow out of it. So, maybe just one or two missions, but the depth of those missions can produce these kind of people. Um, so yeah, that's kind of the way I think about it.
Yeah, I love it. All
Yeah.
right. Well, I got you recorded saying you can see it.
Yeah. So no. I see myself doing one or two things, within the university, but then it just implies and pulls on so much more. So yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. But it won't be all white men. So
No, I don't see you working with. I don't see you working with all white men at all. Maybe having a few sprinkled on your team, but very few. um. So awesome, awesome. There we have it. Working with the right team, attracting the right folks. Um, yeah, that was You Purpose Me Institute Thursday evening. I can't believe I got through it. It was just such I don't know. These past few days, I've just been exhausted, but I'm out here working in my purpose. So it's going to be tiring sometimes. But yes, revisit, look at some of the old videos, some of the old group chats that we have, not just from the Fruitful edition, but also from the Faith edition. I believe we have some good conversation and dialogue in those as well. So be sure if you're watching the replay, be sure that you tell somebody about You Purpose Me. Tell somebody about me and tell somebody about Tobias as well, that he's looking for someone to be his organizer and his financier.
no, actually, no, seriously. If I'm looking for somebody, this is the person I'm looking for right now. I mean, just what I'm thinking. Like the one person I'm excited about to listening to all this is that I'm actually excited about the people pleaser. Just because what I see them doing is not so much I mean, not just being a people pleaser, so to speak, but
Right.
I mean, somebody who actually understands the library of materials that we're going to have, who understands, all the biblical resources we have, but then knows what they're going through and can say, oh yeah, this person needs that, and this person needs that, and so, who can just give that to them for free. And then, as they see value and like and know, they'll be, invest in all the other things. But, yeah, that's a person who's really excited about what the library that we have. So, yeah.
Woo-hoo. All
Yeah,
right.
so that's the person I'm looking for.
You heard it. He's looking for the people pleaser. And we're talking about business here. Business and ministry, actually, and not personal. But that's all I have for you tonight. You Purpose Me Institute, Kadesha Carroll. Join in next time for updates, and to join the newsletter, you can sign up at kadeshacarroll.com. Be blessed.